It's hard to know. We haven't been through this before, but we've been through periods that are somewhat similar. Basically, we've had this incredible globalization, and now we're going through deglobalization. So there's a couple of things that are happening, which we've spoken about a lot. So there's the deglobalization. In that, you have a return to tribalism, nationalism to some extent, and so we're seeing that start to play out, where you look after yourself first. It's what you do when you're not in an expansionary mode. It's like if you're making money, oh yeah, honey, we'll go out tonight for dinner and we'll do. Well, like when you're getting a hit, you're like, oh, we'll stay at home and it's baked beans on toast, right? Type of thing. So you you're seeing that on a global scale is this sort of retrenchment to consolidating what you have. Um, that can come what can come with that is nationalization of resources, which we've anticipated could potentially become a thing. What that also does is it constrains supply. So it's like a double whammy insofar as by doing that, you're constraining supply, you're constraining the amount of capital that can come in to develop something. It's a little bit like if you if you're developing all these resources and you allow everybody to participate in the developing of the resources, it attracts more and more capital. Then you go, no, all the resources are mine. Fuck off, and you grab them. You're stopping any new development of new resources. Your supply is not going to go up.
It's finite now. Yeah,
it's finite, and so. And remember, that's happening at a time when we've already been through a bear market. Right? It's not like we're in a bull market. We've got tons of these things all lying around. Like that's not the case. So what it would do is the underlying price would benefit significantly. And so the question really, Kane, I guess that you're asking is how do you manage that risk? You can't eliminate risk. And we've got a lot of risks in front of us. So how do we try and mitigate that risk? The first step is to attempting as best as we can to understand what's going on at that geopolitical level, hopefully so that we can address it ahead of time, should that happen. The other way, of course, is just diversification, right? If we were like, okay, we're bullish on gold, but we're just going to go and buy one gold company that's in one jurisdiction. If that happens to be a jurisdiction that nationalizes that gold company, then that's problematic for us. Now, typically when that does happen, people do get paid out. It's not like you go to zero, right? We had it, in fact, with Arriva, which we owned way back, and now, depending on how long people have been with us, which is the French utility company. So we got paid out, and it was just like, okay, fine, and we went and reallocated the capital. But so diversification is one thing, and then the other is really just attempting to keep our eye on this particular element, and where possible, moving ahead of something if we see that taking place. So for example, one of the concerns that I've had isn't necessarily around nationalization, although it's one of them. It's been around a sanctioning or a taxation of some description on people like us owning assets that they don't want us to own.
Right.
So fossil fuel related stuff where they go, no, you're not allowed to own something that emits too much carbon, and we'll decide what that is. And so that, this particular company hasn't got the highest ESG score and you're not allowed to own it, or you're taxed 20% on holdings of it, or something like that. If that comes out, and one could hope that you'd see, that coming. Certainly we're seeing it in Europe, where they've already brought this out. So that's now coming through into the companies there. And all that it does is it just sends the capital elsewhere, right? Because it's like, well, how would you own? So like aluminium, for example, you want to import aluminium into Europe now, you've got to pay this stupid carbon tax.
Oh,
Well,
geez.
what are the companies in Europe going to do? They're going to go, well, we'll relocate. Why
Yeah.
would, like, they got to pay all these stupid taxes? They can't compete on a global scale, so they're just going to move. I
Mhm.
mean, a perfect example of this ridiculous absurdity is BASF, one of the largest German companies in the world, massive, who now are moving their operations to China. It's just, anyway, so
Yeah.
this is just the world that we're living in. We've got to try and navigate that and allocate our capital accordingly to try and manage these risks. But it is a risk. I'm not. But like I said, you can't eliminate risk. You can try and manage it.
Hmm. The thing that concerns me is like as a retail investor, with the central bank digital currency on its way and understanding the motivations behind like the fascist regimes of the World Economic Forum and so forth, the public-private partnership ordeal that they have. There'll come a time where you're pigeonholed and your investment account is tied to your Fed coin account or whatever they want to call it, and you go to allocate funds to your Thinkorswim account, and
Mm.
they, yeah, I don't think so. That's you
Yep.
can invest in
Yep.
these companies that we
But
choose for you.
so here's the upside to this. We will go through the biggest transfer of wealth in freaking human history with that. If they keep pushing this and there's no indication they're going to stop,
Right.
your smart money is already moving geographically. And you will, because here's the thing, people are concerned that there'll be this one world government, to which to some extent we already have, quite
Yeah.
frankly. The issue, and so there's this complete totalitarian system, and there's no getting out of it. Maybe that happens, maybe, but what I do understand about human nature is that men, in particular, are competitive. We're very, very competitive, right? Whether it's sports or whatever, like we are. Okay, I mean, not everyone, but
Like real men.
basically,
Yeah.
a lot of us are. I know I am.
Lots of testosterone.
and and so you don't want to lose. Like you want to win,
Right.
and you'll do bloody anything to win. Like, I mean, it's why sportsmen will like take such great care of their bodies, and
Comes with a great
and
sacrifice to be good
like
at the top of
you'll
the highest
you'll
level.
do whatever you can to get an edge so that you can win.
Yeah.
And with winning comes prestige and social prestige and power and a whole host of
Accolades.
other things. And certainly human history indicates that men are very competitive. Now, in this world where you see this totalitarian type system, not only is there the competition side of things, but there's also the strong desire where, and you don't even have to couch it in the terms of freedom, but just where you don't want someone else to have something over you,
Right.
right? And
It's
so
racist.
there are world leaders, there are other interested parties, and they might want to lord it over us, just like Klaus and his crowd do.
Hmm.
But what they certainly don't want is they don't want Klaus to be lording it over them. And so there's a competition there. And in that competitive framework, even if you've got central bank currencies manipulating and telling people what they can and can't do, one of those systems, maybe there's many at the beginning, will dominate. And you know how it's going to dominate? By being more productive. How was the Cold War won? It was won by being more productive. That's basically what it was.
Yeah, it makes
Was
sense.
one
Yeah.
system outcompeted the other system, and the other system collapsed. It took a long
And,
time, but that's
and
basically so. So an implementation of digital currencies and all that are totalitarian and that don't produce and provide more is going to compete with any other system that has a different methodology behind it. And we're at this point where there's a lot of that is all in the works. um,
that's good news.
so that's kind of good news. And again, it's not a matter of looking at good and bad. It's not. I don't view these leaderships, if you even want to call them that, in the world as being good and bad. I kind of view them all as just psychopaths. But
Yeah.
The psychopaths with differing agendas. And within those differing agendas lies nuance and relative freedoms that we can participate in and use to advance our own interests. We're also competitive on our own front, and we're
Hmm.
maybe not operating at that scale, but you know, we that and that's and there's a lot. I mean, it's basically it's a big move between centralization and decentralization.
Yeah.
That's a big competitive competing interests, and so um, it's a very exciting time to be alive. But it is also a time where there's increasing risks, fairly extreme risks, but within that there's massive opportunity too.
Yeah.
All of us probably listening to this, if we had imagine if we had a financial system we could tap into, an entire like trading, the whole everything we do that was devoid of and removed from any of these centralized elites. Like we would flock to that like flies to shit.
Hell yeah.
We all would. But so parts of it are being built, and that's a good thing. But and there will be other players who will utilize some of those parts, and we don't even have to agree with them. It could be bloody people we don't agree with at all, but they're competing allows for a break in some of the narratives and some of the structures that are being implemented. That's my best hope, basically, for humanity is something of that description, and
Yeah.
we are seeing a lot of that taking place. It's increasingly difficult to hold together a lot of these narratives that were being pushed.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah, I think human beings are squirrely. It's like once they start to get a piece of the breakdown of the narrative, then that aha moment kicks in. They're like, "Oh, wait a minute, I don't agree with what you're doing here." The medicine is a good example of that, right? It's everybody trusted in it, and then all of a sudden,
you know,
professional sports,
it's
yeah,
fascinating to watch that whole Damar Hamlin thing,
yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking
because
of. Yeah,
like it's what's interesting to me is the discourse that's now taking place, right? And it's revealed that there's many people who like they're involved in that discourse, and you
hmm,
can see they're involved in it because they're not sure,
yeah,
right? And like even 6 months ago, 12 months ago, it wouldn't have even been happening.
right,
Like
yeah.
there wouldn't have been a discussion about it. It'd be like, oh, some guy had a heart attack on the field, and you'd be like, fuck, that doesn't happen ever. That's weird.
The
But you
odd
wouldn't
thing,
have thought that would have
yeah,
been it. It would have been next day. You'll be on to the next news, and you know, whatever. That would be it. This thing's going on, and you're getting interweaving threads, right? So you'll have mainstream will say this, oh, it's
yeah.
like, and then other doctors and stuff coming in going, no. So you're getting discussion,
Yeah, that's something we didn't have. Like you said, the
something that we
discourse.
didn't have before.
It's at a point now. It's like it's funny. I don't know. It's probably just the algorithm, but like I'll look at my Instagram and I'll just go through the reels, and then it's just like every other one. It's just somebody that's
Mm,
pointing out the obvious bullshit that's happening with respect to
mm,
like the medicine, and you're just like, well, like a year or two ago, it was just you and me, Chris,
mm, mm.
and a few other people,
Felt
and
lonely.
now it's just like I'm getting tired of seeing it. I'm just like, well, this is good, but I'm getting tired of
Mm,
seeing it. So that's a positive, and then at the same time too, it's just odd that there's so many people out there that are so cognitively dissonant that even in today's what's obviously happening on mainstream TV on the NFL and so forth, people are still not willing to connect the dots. They're just so, head in the sand, so I still hold out hope for those folks, but I'm just impressed that there's those people even exist still after what we've
mm.
seen. But you can apply the same ideology, or the same thing to everything else that we're talking about, the central bank digital
Yeah, but
currency
we talk about
thing, the
central bank
climate change
currencies. We just
narrative.
talked about the commercial banks in the Fed.
Yeah,
They,
right.
like, you don't think they understand how this operates, how it's going to work, what it's going to do?
Exactly.
They understand, probably, like they understand,
Right.
but they also I'm not saying they're good guys. I'm saying they would want probably that power for them, but they realize that they don't have that power. They're not in that position. So what are they going to do? Well, they're going to fight it with whatever tools they have. The
Yeah.
tools that they have right now are interest rates. They're
Yeah.
literally blowing up Japan and Bank of England and the ECB by doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm all behind them right now.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You guys do
Anyway,
it.